Clemson Tiger fans, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Clemson Sports Show. This is your host, Joseph Hastings. And for the first time, we're welcoming on a recruiting guest onto the show. This guest is from Maryville, Indiana, holds over 24 offers thus far in his recruitment, and is a multi-sport star who plays both baseball and football. Of course, I'm talking about 2023 linebacker, Drayk Bowen. Drayk, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing excellent. I can't complain today. Very excited to kind of talk with you about your recent trip to Clemson, your recruitment, upcoming trip to Notre Dame. So just kind of getting right into it, where are you at in your recruiting process right now? I know you dropped the top 5 back in August, but where do things stand with you?
So really, I wanted to drop the top 5 to see if it would kind of slow things down with recruiting, just because I was getting really overwhelmed with all the phone calls and having to talk to this coach this day, this coach this day. So plus school and then baseball and football. So that's kind of why I dropped it. But right now, those are still my top 5. So I'm going to those games as of right now, and then kind of going from there.
All right, so that top 5 is Auburn, LSU, Notre Dame, the in-state Indiana Hoosiers, and Clemson. You talked about baseball as well. I mentioned it at the top. How much of a factor will baseball play in your final decision whenever you're ready to make it?
So baseball will play a really big part just because it's a big part of my life, and that's kind of always been my dream, was to play football, baseball in college and wherever I could, really.
All right, that's awesome. And have you kind of spoken with any scouts, MLB scouts or anybody like that to see where you could potentially project to at the next level?
So I actually have a coach who coached high-level Division I, and so he said that I could project to be really anywhere from shortstop to third to outfield, but a lot of it depends on what college I go to and how they see me as a football, baseball player, because a lot of football, baseball players don't play infield. So,
very interesting. And now let's shift gears on over to the football side of things. You visited Clemson a couple of weeks ago for the Georgia Tech game. Just talk to me a little bit about that. We exchanged some text messages before, but how did that experience go for you, Drayk?
It was awesome getting to be down there in Clemson the second time, getting to see the atmosphere of the game, this Tiger walk, getting to be in the locker room for a little bit, kind of getting to hear Coach Sweeney talk pregame, postgame, and to see how the players interact with the coaches, kind of the coaching, how they coached. So that was all really exciting for me. And then obviously getting to watch the game was incredible.
Now, speaking of seeing coaches in person, Brent Venables was the defensive coordinator and linebackers coach for Clemson, was the coach you really wanted to see. You really wanted to see how he was on the sidelines. Coach Venables is a very expressive person. He actually has to have somebody pull him back sometimes when he tries to get onto the field. What did you think about him?
I thought it was awesome getting to see that in person. He plays coaches with fire. And so, that's just awesome. He loves his players. He wants his players to succeed, his team to succeed. So I think that's why the defense has usually been so good in the past. And even this year, is that their coach wants to win just as bad as they do.
So that defense, up until their last game against North Carolina State, hadn't allowed a touchdown all season. And you got to see the game where, it got really close. Georgia Tech got to the 1-yard line, but James Kelsey came up 4th down and prevented it. What did you think about that play? What was the atmosphere like in the stadium when you were there?
So really, it was a good play by Georgia Tech. Kind of just out of nowhere, they pulled that one out of their back pocket, and Kelsey just blew it open. So, that was really awesome to see. Just kind of knowing that type of preparation went into it on his part and on the defense's part, but also the atmosphere was just crazy when that happened. Everybody started going nuts, and so it was really awesome to see.
And Drayk, what were your overall thoughts on how the defense performed, seeing them in person for the first time, from the linebackers to defensive linemen to the cornerbacks? How did you think they functioned as a unit?
I thought they functioned extremely well. Kind of Skalsi led the way. He knew what everybody was doing. Everybody kind of really, you'd see they trusted each other. They did their assignment, and then they knew the person next to him was doing their assignment. So Skalsi just kind of took over when he needed to and got everybody lined up at one point he just started grabbing people and throwing them when they changed plays. So, obviously they put a lot of trust in him to be the leader too.
So Drayk, you got that whiteboard in the background there. For those on listening to us on podcast, Drayk Bowen has a whiteboard in the background. That's where he does his football play schemes, things like that. So you know more about football than I do, of course. What did you think about Clemson's use of linebackers and how you would potentially fit into that defense?
So they use them a lot in both run, pass. Kind of getting to talk to Coach Venables before the game. They were talking about how they were going to use one of their outside linebackers in man-to-man coverage against one of their slots. So kind of knowing that, like, he's 240, so he's obviously bigger kid, bigger linebacker, but he's guarding a slot. So knowing that kind of just shows that all of them can do everything. And so being able to blitz, like Scalzi, he did a lot that game, and he was very good at it. And then being able to guard and coverage is kind of everything they need and want in the linebackers. So that was pretty cool getting to see all the aspects of a linebacker being used by every single one of them.
Now, Drayk, with Clemson having veteran linebackers and Scalzi and Balen Spector and others, do you kind of see an opportunity for yourself if you were to go there to potentially contribute early in the Tigers defense?
Yes, sir. So, obviously I've had those talks with Coach Venables about, older guys leaving and not as much depth coming in and right now. So, I've had those talks with him. Yes, sir.
All right, and going over to your conversations with Coach Venables, he's the linebackers coach, so he's the primary recruiter there for you. What's he been saying to you? What's been his overall pitch to you, Drayk?
So really his overall pitch has been, obviously I'm going to grow and develop as a man. But also, Clemson's a home. Everybody in Clemson loves Clemson. So, that's really a big part of his thing is they're family for one. There's family atmosphere. They really do believe in that. And then, the home feeling, like really when you get there, it does feel like a home. And then obviously football and then studies too. So those are his big topics with me are football, student, athlete, obviously, and then kind of the family atmosphere and that home atmosphere too.
So that family and home atmosphere was something that you got to see 2 times this year. You got to go back in June. That's a little bit of a different experience than going during the game day because it's a little bit more one-on-one with the coaches, and the coaches are preparing and coaching, during the actual game days itself. What did you think about those 2 trips, how they compare to each other?
So really they probably getting to see everybody, getting to talk to everybody, obviously getting to know a lot about their game day things are different. What they do during game day and what they do during just a normal day are obviously different. Getting to see that was pretty cool, but also kind of just getting to meet the people. Like really the people are the same, whether it's a game day or whether it's just a normal day. They're going to treat you like your family. They're going to invite you to do whatever. And so really those are some similarities, but obviously the day is different. It's a game day versus a normal day. So a little more focused on the game where the coaches and players are.
Absolutely. And I'm going to ask you to rewind a little bit more back to August when you included Clemson in your top 5. When making that decision, it's a tough decision. You have so many great options on the table just to narrow it down to 5 finalists. What led to the Clemson Tigers making the list for you, Drayk?
So really I talked to my parents, sat down with them, and it was kind of just, all right, well, these are the schools that I think are the best fit for me out of the offers I had, really. So the first thing was, how did I feel about the coaches? Did I have a great relationship with them? So obviously I had a great relationship with Coach Venables, and, being able to be on campus and kind of had that type of feeling when I was on campus was a big reason. So I've always wanted a home feeling where it's kind of like a second home. So when I stepped on campus, it felt like that. Obviously, it's a very prestigious school, like for students, especially in the ACC. And then, football, baseball was a big part. Obviously, football has been good in years past, and then baseball has come around too. So those were all the big criteria for me, and Clemson fit all of them.
Now let's look at some of those other schools that are on that top 5 as well. We mentioned it before: Auburn, LSU, Notre Dame, and Indiana. Let's focus on the SEC programs there, Auburn and LSU. What led to those programs making the cut for you, Drayk?
So really, when I got down there, I'd never been to Alabama or Louisiana, so I didn't really know what to expect. So I kind of just went in with an open mind. But I had talks with Auburn football and baseball for a while then. So it was just a matter of getting on campus and kind of getting that feeling, talking to the coaches in person, obviously with it being a new staff. So right when I got there, I loved the coaches. I really did like the campus. I thought it was a great feeling for me, great fit for me. So we got to walk around a little bit the night before. And so, just being on campus, it had a great feeling. And then obviously with LSU, their baseball, football is extremely well. So I hadn't talked to baseball till a couple of weeks ago. They started talking to my coach, the baseball coach, and they said they were interested in me. And I had already talked to football for however long. So I liked the football just as much as the school when I got there. So it was just a matter of baseball, and then baseball started talking, so it kind of sealed the deal for their top 5 for me.
All right, let's go back to your home state, Drayk, Indiana. The Indiana Hoosiers and Notre Dame Fighting Irish. What led to those programs making the cut? I imagine that them being close to you, being in the state of Indiana definitely played a part.
So really with Indiana, I had known Coach Allen since I was a freshman. We had 2 kids, the class before me that had graduated, go there. So he had always come in, scouted a little bit. So I got to meet him my freshman year coming in. So talking to him for the first time was really cool. And, as a coming in freshman, that's Tom Allen. And so that was really cool. And I had been to IU a couple times, so I had already liked the campus. I've been around. And then after my freshman year, their baseball started talking to me just because I had a pretty good baseball year. And so it was just, I never talked to football after that one time. And so then football called my coach, said they want to offer me. So kind of ever since then, they've been top tier for me just because they're in state. I had great relationships with coaches, and I loved the campus for so long. So that was a big reason why I chose them. And then with Notre Dame, obviously doesn't really get much better than the academics there along with the sports. So the academics were a big reason. Both sports, so they've had plenty of players do 2 sports there. And so the history of that being done was a big thing for me. And then, just had great relationships with the coaches, and then being there, it just felt like home.
So, Drayk, I've got to ask, just based on that kind of glowing review of Notre Dame and also just kind of the perception from people within the recruiting industry, a lot of people feel like Notre Dame may be the school to beat right now. Is that the case, or is every school kind of even on your list right now?
So right now, really, it's every school's even on my list. I really do want to get to all the games in my top 5, and then once I do that, then that's when I'm gonna either start ranking them or start to narrow down and make my decision.
Speaking of which, do you know when you would want to make your decision? Do you kind of have a decision time frame?
It would be, if I did, it'd be after the game, so sometime late fall, maybe winter-ish at the earliest.
Okay, got you. And with your game schedule, you're going to be going to the Notre Dame-Cincinnati game. That's a great game, top 10 matchup this upcoming Saturday. Which other games do you plan on attending this season?
I'm going to the Auburn-Georgia game, and then I believe I'm going to the LSU-Florida possibly. I just had to talk to my parents about it.
Okay, have you been to an Indiana game yet, or do you plan on going to one?
I have not, and I think we do plan on going to one. I just haven't set a date yet.
All right, sounds good. And when it is time to make that decision, you said it, potentially after the visits are done, you'll potentially narrow it down. what are going to be the most important factors for you in that final decision, Drayk?
So really it'll be the home feeling, which is hard because, you get a lot of places that feel like a second home, but it'd probably be, best fit that I think I would excel at, whether that's growing as a man, as a person, as a athlete, as a student. So that's a big part of it, but also kind of relationships with the coaches. Where's a place that's going to help me, or that I have great relationships with all the coaches, not just the one that's recruiting me or the one that I talk to the most. And then, obviously a place where I'm going to get to compete at the highest level and, hopefully make it to the NFL or MLB one day.
Absolutely. That's great stuff and a great mentality as you approach this upcoming decision, whether it be later this year or early next year. Drayk, thank you for joining us. And before we let you go, I want to end it off on a fun note. What's one fun fact about you that people around you may not know, or the people covering you may not know, Drayk?
I was actually born in Michigan. I was born in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and then moved to Indiana when I was about 2 or 3. I guess that'd be kind of something.
That's a good response. I threw that at you, didn't pre-plan it. But Drayk, thanks so much for taking time out of your day to speak with us. We really appreciate it. And good luck this upcoming weekend at Notre Dame and the rest of your football season.
Yes, sir. Thank you.